everyone, welcome back to the workshop. I hope you're all doing well. Now, I have another woodworking jig for you in this video. It's going to be part 2 to this video here, where we made this mitred shooting board. I have another different style mitred shooting board for you, and this one is going to be completely made with hand tools. So, in the first video I made this guy, but I made it with a track saw and a bandsaw. It is for hand tool woodworking, but what happens if you don't have access to a track saw or a bandsaw? All you have is your hand planes and some saws. Well, you can make yourself one of these, a donkey-eared shooting board, or donkey-eared mitre shooting board. It's an absolutely fantastic jig. I highly recommend you make it. You're going to enjoy this video, and you're going to see what you can do on this shooting board that you can't do on this shooting board. So just give you a quick heads up, there's inside and outside mitres, especially when it comes to moulding, that you can't do on this shooting board, but you can absolutely do them on this shooting board, which I'll show you at the end of this video, as well as do all your box mitres on it. And you can completely build this with hand tools and have yourself an extremely accurate jig for shooting all those mitres. So without further ado, let's jump in and build ourselves a donkey-eared mitred shooting board. Okay, let's crack on with this project. Now, just like the last shooting board that I made, I'm going to use the red oak flooring that I salvaged. So I've just prepared a few pieces, a bit of stock here. They're roughly about 3/4 of an inch, but just under 20 millimeters in thickness. The width is 3 inches or 75 mil, and the length is about 18 inches or roughly 450 millimeters. So we've 3 of those, the exact same dimension. Now, I want to take 2 of these, and what I'm going to do is put a 45-degree edge on 2 of these. So I'm going to change this corner into 45 degrees with this corner. I'm going to do that with the hand plane. Like I said, we're going to try and make this 100% hand tool only and get ourselves a mitred jig at the end of it. So let's get on and do that. Right, we'll just leave one of these aside for the minute. We just want to deal with these 2 pieces. So with my combination square, I'm just going to mark the edge of this at 45 degrees. So from this corner, I'm just going to place the combination square right on it and just draw a line right there. So I will give you a close-up of that. I'm just marked from that edge there 45 degrees. Then I'm going to take my marking gauge. I'm going to set that to where that line ends. Just line up my marking gauge with that there. That is it, happy days. And then I'm going to pull a line along this piece. I'm going to score it pretty heavily because we're going to be working to this line with the hand plane. So get that in there nice and deep because we're working to that edge. Just like that. Now I know these 2 pieces are exactly the same thickness, so I don't have to mark the 45 on this. I can just pull that line in this as well. Now, you can mark the edges at 45 if you wish, just to give yourself a little visual reference point for when you're planing. There's no harm in doing that. But that's our 2 pieces marked. So now, the plan is to take that corner and take it down to that line there, which will give you exactly 45 degrees on that edge. If it's not making sense yet, it soon will. Okay, so just before I go at this with the hand plane, I'll just explain it a little bit better and give you guys a close-up so you can see exactly what I did there. So I've taken the combination square and just put a 45-degree line from this edge here. Then I've taken the marking gauge, I've set it to this depth and pulled a line all the way up this board to here. So now I'm going to work with the plane this edge down to that line, and we're going to put a 45-degree edge the whole way down on both boards. So let's get on and do that, and we need to be as accurate as we could possibly be because we need to make sure that we get this exactly at 45. Let's do that. Okay, so I have the first piece clamped in the vise here, and I'm just going to start working this edge down. And I have a line on the back and the front here as a reference, and I'm going to take this edge down to my marking gauge line here. And again, it's just set your hand plane roughly at 45 and start working that edge down. You know, there's a little bit of practice involved in this, so you can make a couple of test pieces first, just so you're happy. And having some good hand planing skills will help you with this project. But again, just work it down, take your time, just watch your edges, Make sure that you don't take too much off, although you can reduce that angle down. You can make the piece a little bit narrower if you don't hit exactly 45. You can work this in nice and slowly. It's a lot easier than you think. Now you might end up with a multifaceted face, or you might end up putting a curve in this. What you want to do is take it down to that 45 so that you're taking one full length shaving at that angle of 45, and just have your combination square handy so that you can check this as you go. So when you get down to that line, really start to check. I'll give you guys a close-up now in a second and you can see exactly what it is I'm doing. Okay guys, so there was a quick close-up of where I'm at, and you can see I'm working down to this edge here now. So you can see actually I need to take a little bit more off the front than off the back. So you just want to pay attention to how close you're getting to your marking gauge line here and how close you're getting to the back of your angle here, to the back of the board. And I can see that that's a lot narrower than in the front, so I know I take more material from this side. I just want to match that angle as best I can until we get one final stroke at that 45-degree angle. And again, just checking for our combination square as we go. So I want to just maybe favor this edge a bit more than the back edge now. And again, that might make it multifaceted like I said, but we can take it back to one face with a couple of strokes of the hand plane. So I'm just going to work that front edge a bit more now. And we want to even that up there. And again, just checking all the way along. How close am I getting to my marking gauge line all the way along? I'm pretty close to it back here, so I need to do a bit more work here and to this side. And we'll tie all this together. You can see we're getting pretty close to that line now, so I'm almost there. So I should be able to rest my plane right on this and take a couple of full length shavings. Just like that. And then we can start to check with our marking gauge and see how close to 45 we are. So I can still see I need to take material off the bottom edge here because I have a gap at the top. Now I'll continue to work this till I get it exactly 45. We are really close back here, so it's just this end I need to focus on. That is almost bang on at the very back here. So I'll get on and finish this and I'll show you the final result. Okay guys, there we go. A perfect 45 done by hand with the hand plane. You can see that is exact. It's exact according to my combination square anyway. And this one is pretty exact. So I can just check that the whole way along. Make sure we've no high spots. We need this to be perfect. So spend a bit of time at it. It won't take very long at all. You'll have that chamfer down to 45 in minutes. I almost did that on real time on the video. It took me, I don't know, 5-6 minutes to get that down. And then just a few strokes, paying attention to where I needed to remove material and checking with the square, and that's exactly 45. So I've got to do that to the other board now, the exact same thing, and I'll do that and we'll jump back in. Okay guys, so there we go, 2 45s in our boards, just like that. Now, they are going to go together just like this. I'll show you when we're doing the final assembly. Well, what I want you to do is take your best 45, so whichever one you've done a better job on, try and be 100% accurate with both, but if one is a little bit off, use that for the top board and use your best angle for the bottom board, because this is the base of our jig. This is the board that the plane will run along, so we want this angle here to be exactly 45. This edge here, the plane will dress up and keep square when it runs along it. So the most important board is this one. We want that to be exactly 45, otherwise we'll be slightly out. So that's that much done. Now I want to put a cleat in the bottom board so that we can clamp our jig in the vise. So I'm going to run a dado in this, or a groove in this, and I'm going to take my other piece of red oak and slot that into it, and that will act as a cleat that my bench vise can clamp. Okay guys, so I've marked in my groove for the underneath of the jig for my cleat, so it's just the width of the board here, and I haven't put it in the middle. I've kept it back towards this edge slightly for the simple reason this is how this jig is going to go together, so it will be just like that. So I wanted the cleat towards this back edge here so that when I clamp it in the vise, it's overhanging this way a bit more rather than pulling the jig in onto the vise. I just want it out of it so that the angle doesn't interfere with the vise, or the vise doesn't interfere with the angle, in other words. So I'm going to cut this in now on my plough plane. If you don't have a plough plane, obviously you can do this with a router, or you can do it on a router table. If you don't have any of those things, then you can just screw a cleat straight to the bottom of this. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that either. A couple of countersunk holes on the top of it and just screw this on. It's literally just a cleat to catch in the vise. But because I'm doing this with hand tools, I'm going to do this with my plough plane now. So let's get on to that. Okay, I have my plough plane set up there. I'm just going to take this groove out with it now. You guys have probably seen me use this plough plane loads of times, but it's always best to start from the end and work your way into your cut. So I'm going to start from this end and work our way back down the piece so that you always have a groove to run into. Lovely. Now sometimes using a plough plane is just that fast. It's actually quicker than using a router or router table. By the time you set up your router or your router table, you would have it done just that quickly with the little plough plane. Okay guys, so there's our cleat now in our groove, our dado, a little bit of glue in there. Now I've put some countersunk screws in the top just for expediency because I want to get on and make this video, so I don't want to wait for the glue to set up, so I'm going to glue and screw. So like I said, you guys don't have to cut the dado. This is just a cleat to hold this piece in the vise, so you can just countersink screw and glue on something that you can catch in your vise. Nice and simple. But like I said, for the purposes of making this video, I'm going to just get some screws in this now so I can continue on to the next part. Lovely, just like that. So there's our cleat in place, screwed and glued and sitting inside in our groove. Happy days. Right guys, so there is our jig in our vise. This is our base piece and there's our angle. And like I said, this is the most crucial angle here. If you don't get it exactly right on the top piece, it's not the end of the world. So this is one of the most crucial parts of this project, and that's joining these two pieces together. So you can see this is exactly how they go together. So the two 45s meet like this, so that this 45 is exactly 90 degrees to here. Now, we want to make sure that we get these as closely aligned as possible. So be very, very critical here. It doesn't matter if you're a little bit out, and there's a simple reason for that. If I just grab the hand plane, your hand plane should be at right angles to its side walls if it's a good quality hand plane. And when you run that guy along there, it will bring this edge perfectly square to the base anyway. So that's just something to think about. You can use the hand plane to bring this guy back to square. Now, I'm just going to line this up here. I'm going to throw my pencil away, grab another pencil. I'm going to mark where the 45 hits there and hits there. I'm going to square these two lines up, get the center end of those two lines, and then I'm going to draw a line across the back of this, and I'm going to mark that line for countersunk screws, and then we're going to screw this jig together. So let's do that. Okay, so there's my center line. I've just drilled out a few countersunk screws, and now we're going to screw these two pieces together. So a little bit of wood glue and screw this together. Now, like I said, we want to keep this as accurate as possible. So I've drilled the holes bigger than the screws, so the thread of the screw doesn't actually catch. And any of the timber on this side, so that it makes it easier to screw these two pieces together and we can be a little bit more accurate. So let's get on and do that. Just a little bit of wood glue along here, we don't need too much. I don't want any squeeze out up into the corner of my top piece, so I'm just going to use a small bit in conjunction with the screws, and that should be good enough to go. So let's get those perfectly aligned. Get a screw in here. Just make sure that I'm 100% happy with that. Screw that guy home. Just like that, and then do the same for all the rest of them. Okay guys, so our jig is almost completely assembled. Now we just have the fence to go on. But I just wanted to show you this. So like I said, this 45-degree angle here is the most important, because this is the bed that our piece rests on. So we need this to be exactly 45 degree to the base, or the piece that our plane runs on. So I have my checkbox here. I have it zeroed again at 0 degrees. So I want to make sure that this one is 45 degrees or pretty close to it. 44.9, so I'm not going to argue about 0.1 of a degree. That's almost bang on 45 degrees there, so that's exactly what we want. Now it's just a case of add our fence and we're almost ready to use it. Okay, the fence is nice and simple. It's just a small piece with a 45 on it there. That sits there. Get your 45 degree edge flush with this edge here, so that's 90 degrees all the way up there. You can actually take a square, put it against it to help align everything, and put it dead center of your jig, and then just put a couple of screws in it, and that is your fence made. So then you can put a piece this way, work your plane back to it, or put a piece this way and work your plane this way. Nice and easy for making small little mitres. So let's get that attached. Okay guys, so there is our jig more or less assembled. Actually, it is fully assembled. So now I'm just going to address this edge here, just to make sure that it's perfectly square to this. So I have a rebating, or if you're in America, rabbiting block plane. That just means the blade goes edge to edge. And I know that this one is perfectly square to its base, so I'm just going to rest that on here and just give that a couple of strokes. It's not going to be too far off. Just a couple of strokes, and that should be happy days. So that should be good and square to this guy here. So let's go on and test it. Right guys, there we go. There is one handmade mitred shooting board. Now this is, like I said at the start of the video, referred to, I believe, as a donkey-eared shooting board. Now there's a couple of tricks that this one does that this board does not. So let me just explain this. So you just drop it in your vise if you ever want to use it. Nice and simple. Now here's something we need to think about. There are inside and there are outside mitres. So when we're doing boxes, we're not overly concerned whether it's an inside mitre or an outside mitre, because it's a box. It's not going into a corner and it's not going round a corner, if you see what I mean. So why is that important? Well, if I had a piece of moulding and I wanted to take it round a corner, then this jig would be no good. So I don't have a proper piece of moulding here, but just to illustrate, here's a curved piece of dado. If I was to put that in here and shoot that now at 45, I would have an angle that this piece could run into a corner and have another piece run into the corner to go against it. But this board would be absolutely useless if I wanted to shoot it so that the angles are 45 this way, so that I can actually put this piece around a corner. And that's all because of the moulding, because the moulding cannot go against the fence. It cannot go against the base of the board because it's not a reference edge. The flat reference edge has to go against the base of the board and against your fence to ensure that you're perfectly square. And that's where this guy comes in. So let me get you for a little bit of a close-up, and I'll show you that this guy can do inside and outside mitres. Right guys, let me explain a little bit about inside and outside mitres and why you see where this one is good for box making, but not so much when it comes to doing moulding and or outside mitres in awkward pieces. So here's an inside mitre. So this is a round bit of dado. You can see that those two are joined so that they will meet in a corner, and I have these two cuts with an outside mitre so that they can go round a corner, if that makes sense. You can see it there. So nice and simple. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, you cannot cut outside mitres in moulding on this. If it was just two perfectly flat pieces like this that we would use for a box, then that can go into a corner. It can also go round a corner, so it's not an issue. It's just a case of put that up against the fence and shoot away. However, how do I put a round piece against a fence? I can't do it. So there's actually no way for me to get that 45 securely held here. It's quite difficult, and especially if you have a piece of moulding, it doesn't quite work out. Likewise, even with my outside or inside mitre, I can't put this piece against the fence because there's my 45-degree angle there, and as you can see, that's rocking against the fence, so I can't properly support it. Now, it's even worse when it comes to really complicated moulding, but this should serve to illustrate the point. Now, let's have a look at our donkey-eared shooting board and see how this helps us. Right guys, hopefully you can see what I have you set up there, and let me show you the beauty of this little jig here for doing mitre. So I can take any one of these pieces now and they will work on this jig. So if I take one side of my inside mitre, I can put that flat edge against the fence there, and there I have my 45-degree angle now that I can run my plane up, and my piece is nice and supported. Likewise, if I take the other piece, that can sit here against it, and I can work it back this way, and I'm protected from breakout as well, which is nice. Now, here is our outside mitre piece. That can also go against our fence just like that, and I can plane that at 45, and likewise this guy can go right here just like that, and I can plane that at 45. And if I want to do box mitres just like this, those guys can go either side depending on which way the grain is running on the piece. You can pull the plane towards you, or you can push the plane away from you, and it's very, very quick and easy to shoot a 45-degree mitre in the end of a board. So this will do your moulding inside and outside, and it will also do your box making. So it's kind of an all-in-one shooting board, which is great. Lovely. There we go, just like that. We have a perfect 45. Right guys, there we go, the humbled donkey-eared mitred shooting board. It's a fantastic jig, especially if you're into hand tool woodworking. It's not hard to make, it's just about getting those angles right, a little bit of care and a little bit of attention to detail, and you can do it no problem. It's a fantastic one to have. I would say it's an essential one to have if you're into your hand tool woodworking, especially into box making. And like, you can do those inside outside corners for moulding, so if you want to put decorative pieces around your box that are not perfectly flat, then this will do it. It will also do moulding for around walls, around outside and inside corners. It's a great jig, and it will do your box mitre. So it's a kind of a one for all mitred shooting board. I highly recommend you make yourselves one of these. It's a great complementary piece to the larger mitred shooting board that I made. This one is great, it's extremely stable, it's great for doing larger box pieces or even small little delicate box pieces you can do on this because you have great support on it. But like I said, for functionality, this one is extremely tough to beat. So there we go guys, two mitred jigs shooting boards all done up now. Hopefully you've enjoyed that guys, hopefully you got something out of it. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new here. That really helps me out a lot. It lets the YouTube algorithm know that you guys are actually enjoying these videos. Comments and questions below as always. I try to answer everybody's questions. If you guys have any, just get in the comment section and let me know what you think of this jig. Yeah, so that's it guys. I'm going to get out of here now. I shall see you in the next one. We'll have some more woodworking projects coming up. I'm going to start making some boxes from that salvaged red oak on these jigs in some future videos. So keep an eye out for that as well. That's it guys, I'm going to get out of here now. I shall see you in the next one. Take it easy.